Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters in arms of the Guild Naga, please, and also Mike. I, Officer 7, have come to you today with some information for newer players, or people just struggling with Guild Wars with some hopefully helpful advice in this mobile torture device that we all call Epic 7. So you're probably wondering, who is this guy? Why should I watch or listen to a guy whose Guild Wars logs look like, the Great Red Sea? His logs look like they're redder than the state of Texas. He shouldn't be an officer. He doesn't even play this game. Well, I have something to say to you. You're right. That's right, we're giving up immediately. Like, how's that for a crash course on winning in Guild Wars? But really, even someone as bad as me, who basically just flips coins with a couple of cleave comps every Guild War for, about 15 minutes before work, can improve their win rate drastically by just applying some basic strategy and concepts around the mechanics of this game. And I'm going to prove it to you. But 7, why do you care all of a sudden? Don't you hate PvP in this game? I thought you said PvP is awful in this game. Guess what? It is. But as an officer, I just cannot sit idly by and watch my fellow Nagas struggle in this game due to lack of basic information on mechanics. I have zero, and I mean no, ulterior motives. Well, actually, I kind of lied. It's more like I have some time to apply these strategies myself. I've been pretty busy lately. So let's all hop up on the Get Good train, because this is going to be a lengthy one, guys. In fact, I'm going to watch this video myself after I'm done, rendering it. That's how committed I am. I'm even going to hit the like button. Anyway, let's get started. So before we get into the mechanics of the game, I want to introduce you to my 3 golden rules about Guild Wars. These will take precedence over everything else basically in this course when it comes to the PvP and Guild Wars in this game. Let's get started with number 1. Do not, I repeat, do not attack a tower you cannot beat, or you even have a low chance of beating, okay? I'm guilty of this one myself. I have various reasons for why I lose. Sometimes it's time constraints. Sometimes I'm just lazy. It just gets the better of me and I just sort of, throw spez in there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Chances are, if you haven't been playing this game for at least, let's say, 4 to 6 months, you probably don't have a very good chance of beating a meta team. What's a meta team? Well, teams composed of characters like Dark Corvus, Ruel, Charles, Seaside Bologna. Hell, have you even played for 3 months? If you haven't, I'd reconsider you attacking something like Montmorency. You might not have the damage to do it yet. But it will come in time, my friends. Acceptance is the first step. Rule number 2, adapt your team compositions. This one, I'm also guilty of for various reasons. If you're using the same team every Guild Wars, then you, for whatever reason, whether it be time or your house is on fire, or you don't care about winning, you just want to use the units you want, which is fine, then you're doing it wrong, my friend, if you're trying to win. The most important thing about obtaining those beautiful blue swords in your log is to adjust your gear and strategy to match each opponent and each battle. If you're serious about winning Guild Wars, set aside some gold every Guild War so you are able to adjust, your gear and your stats accordingly. I'll give you some examples on how to do that in the next part. Rule number 3, communication. Information is very important in Guild Wars. Whether or not a team is speed built, immunities exist, or some trolls just running a full damage crawl that, just takes one of our guys out. These are things that make or break battles. If you have the time, please go into the Guild Wars server channel and try to type at least your partial experience with each team that you either beat or you lose against. Anything that could be helpful, anything unusual, any details on like the major threats of a team that you had trouble with. This is basically the difference between either me or Jack bringing Spez into an immune Dark Corvus and basically watching our poor Spez abandon this mortal coil for the next life with no chance of winning, basically. I'm not saying, you should have Spez or even bring Spez, but if a team doesn't have immunity and is slow, it could be a way that, we could go about winning versus that particular team. Just remember, rule number 2, adapt. So those 3 are a pretty decent general guideline that you should follow if you want to increase our chances of obtaining those sweet mystics, or as I like to call them, 3-star artifacts in disguise. For those of you who cannot follow these rules for one reason or another, or don't care, then carry on and skip the rest of the video and go on, have fun playing the game. You know, just hop into the backpacks of the other Nagas willing to go the extra mile. Other Nagas, my soldiers, aren't you tired of being a basic side quest NPC Naga who just dies in 1 or 2 spells or attacks? Tired of being just another tick on the old World of Warcraft like quest counter? Fret not. Given enough patience and application, we shall rise to our true honor guard status and protect the queen at her side. So let's get to it. Actually, one more thing. You might not know this, but Guild Wars, the day of, when the server resets into a day of Guild Wars, your units on defense will be snapshotted at server reset. Their gear, equipment, and stats will all be saved. That's basically what that means. Why does this matter? Well, let me tell you a secret. You can actually remove gear from any unit that has already been snapshotted, and that unit will retain its stats it had while wearing that gear, while it is on defense. So if you need gear from one of your defensive units, you can safely take it off and use it on another unit. Important if you want to, you know, get the little edge in adapting your teams. So let's look at how some battles might play out. Okay, so here we are. This is actually the defense team UI, but I'm going to use it as a platform to make it easier to visualize what I'm talking about when I explain these next concepts. This part is going to be about offense, okay? Now, how offense in PvP works in this game is that you are not fighting a human in Epic 7. I mean, not until real-time arena anyway, hopefully. You are fighting an AI. So, when you lose in Epic 7, technically speaking, you're basically losing to some underpaid employee over at Smilegate who coded the AI. You know, actually, that kind of makes it like you are losing to a human, but that's besides the point. The point is that this is an AI. As an AI, when it's able to attack, it follows a certain priority list or directive. Using that, you can manipulate the AI to do certain things. So let's take a look at the priority list. Number 1, it will avoid invincible units. This is the number 1 thing. If it can, anyway. It will never attack invincible units unless every unit on the team is invincible. If that's the case, then it will attack the element that it has an advantage over that is invincible. Number 2, it will attack elements it has an advantage over other elements. And between 2 or more units with the same color it has an elemental advantage over, it will attack the unit with less HP. Between 2 or more units of the same elemental disadvantage and the same HP percent, such as like 100%, that it has an advantage over, it will just choose a random unit between those units. Number 3, if these 2 rules don't apply, and there isn't an advantageous element that it can attack, it will prioritize units with less HP. Cases of neutral elements, such as Luna S3, or other skills of that nature, actually, from what I'm researching here, is completely random. Then after that, it will follow the HP percent priority, etc., avoid invincible. So that is the very basic gist of how the AI works in Epic 7. Simple to understand, right? So I have an example here on the board. Now, I'm not saying you're going to see this happen very often, right? I mean, look at this. This is a mess, but I just wanted to demonstrate a point. So let's assume for whatever reason Ludwig went first. He S2'd Dizzy. He's now invincible. Ludwig is a unit which has invincibility. Sirmia is the second highest speed in this battle, and she pops her S2. Which unit is she going to S3? Like, who does she target? Just go ahead and try to guess on your own. I'll give you a second. Alright. You're basically thinking, you know, well, you just said if someone has invincibility, you know, she won't attack Ludwig. So obviously she won't. It doesn't matter who she attacks, okay? Because if you brought Ludwig versus Sturmia, you deserve to lose immediately. No, but really, Sturmia would normally attack Ludwig, but Ludwig, like I said, he can buff himself with invincibility on S2. So she will not attack that unit if she can help it. And then she would choose between these two units using the priority list, whichever one has lower HP percent. So what can we do with this information? You're thinking, okay, Savin, why does that matter? Do you just want me to understand why I'm getting blown up? No, okay? I want to introduce you to a concept called bait units. Let's go into the win conditions of some of the teams, right? Some of the meta teams, like this team on the right's win condition, if it exists, I mean, you might see something like this, probably not. It's basically that Sturmia kills your entire team, right? Well, applying what we just learned, if this team existed, we could take away that win condition pretty easily. Now, I don't have Crawl. Let's just say that Tywin's Crawl, okay? What happens? Well, if Crawl's if Crawl's lower percent HP than everyone else, and let's say that there's a Baiken on the enemy team, she will attack that Crawl instead of Angelica. So let's assume that Baiken, there's a Baiken here instead of Sturmia. So basically, you can take away the win condition by forcing their main win condition to attack your bait unit. Now what you're going to do on this bait unit is you're just going to make him super tanky. But any kind of decently built Crawl isn't going to outright die to Baiken, even though he's at a disadvantage. You're just abusing the elements to manipulate the AI to use the win condition on something that's completely useless to them. So with this application of a bait unit on the team, you just increase your chances of winning very dramatically. As long as you keep Crawl up with, like, I don't know, Angelica here, and he absorbs that Baiken's damage, you can do whatever you want with, say, like Ludwig over here, because she won't attack him. Now that's just like, don't get me wrong, that's just specific to the hypothetical Baiken team here, right? Because that's a single win condition team, which is awful. If your team only has one win condition, it can be easily countered. The reason why I use this example is because I want you to just understand the priority list first and how the AI works in the turn order it does. I don't want to overwhelm you with the more complicated meta teams just yet. Just understand that it's possible to adapt your team to beat any team in the game if you gear properly and strategize correctly. That's right, even if you've only been playing for like 6 months, if you funnel like everything you've earned into like the proper comp and counters to whatever team, even meta, you can make 3-star units counter that team and give you a very good chance of winning. I'm not saying you'll win outright, because there's this thing called RNG, and it does exist in this game, and you will get RNG'd out from time to time, but do not despair, okay? Do not despair. Because, you would have lost anyway if you didn't apply this information, so, at least now that you can have a much better chance of success, and that is the key. Alright, let me put another board up, okay? On the right, I'm gonna have a hypothetical team here. Let's just assume for a second that Shadow Rose here is Moonlight CC. I don't have Moonlight CC because, unlike certain other people in the guild, I just don't absorb every single 5-star ML that gets released into the game, like on patch day as a free summon. So this is Moonlight CC. Let's assume Purg is like Charles, something like, like Charles. Alright, so what you have here on the right is literally the meta right now. It could change. They could possibly nerf Charles. They won't nerf SSB because she's limited, and they probably won't nerf CC because she's an MO unit. So this team on the right, the meta, this isn't a team you should try to fight unless you have pretty decent gear, okay? Like rule number 1, once again. It can be done though. On the left, I've put together a squad of relatively easy units. Sid is probably the hardest unit to obtain here, that has a pretty good chance of beating this team, this meta team on the right, if you built them correctly. Okay, so let's talk about the win condition on the right? The win condition there is obviously, number 1, Charles kills your entire team. Charles is typically built either as a bruiser, all damage. I rarely ever see like a tank Charles. That's not why people bring him. They bring him to give the rest of the team attack buff. I mean, unless he's some kind of like freaky speed build and he immediately S3s you or whatever. In which case, the only way to know about that is if someone using rule number 3 communication told you in Discord beforehand. So how do we take that win condition away from the meta team? Well, if you take a unit like Falconer Kluri here, once again, she's easy to obtain. She has something very unique and powerful to her, okay? She has the ability to essentially just take a unit out of a battle. Now, how do you do that? Well, you have to build her speed. You have to build her speed to get access to that ability, and once you do, you could do something like use Flurry, which is the name of her Falcon, to taunt and defense break Charles, or, you know, stand-in Charles here, which is Purgus. So once you do that, what you need is a unit that hopefully goes before this tanky team. Now, it's not very hard to outspeed a team on the right. I mean, unless, like I said, they build like in a very strange way. So if you build Sid properly, speed attack, there's a good chance that you can get him up to where he can go immediately after Falconer Kluri. Now, a defense broken unit in this game is very, very vulnerable, okay? It's the unholy debuff. A unit that's defense broken will die to mediocre gear, even if it's Charles. So there's a good chance that Sid can just one-shot Charles if, I mean, you upgraded him and he has good gear. And once you do that, there's one of the win conditions, like, for the meta team out the window. Another win condition is SSB here kills your team. It's possible. I mean, she could be super tanky built, or super damage built, but she shouldn't be able she shouldn't be able to kill this team on the left for a number of reasons. One is that Falconer Kluri is an advantageous element versus SSB. So she's gonna, she's gonna miss Falconer Kluri, she's gonna do less damage, have reduced crit rate, the works, and Falconer Kluri is gonna be tanky on top of that. Now, Sid is gonna take damage from SSB, and this is why you have Momo here, okay? Momo, I mean, I haven't upgraded any of these units because I have the luxury of better units than this, but you might not, so I'm using like the very base thing that's relatively easy to get in the game. Momo is one of the best, probably the best single target healer in the game for Guild Wars because she provides immunity on top of good single target healing. So all you would have to do is keep Sid up, and then you're fighting Moonlight CC and SSB, and then you would just wait basically for Kluri's S3 to come back up. You would take out SSB, and you would use Sid to kill her. There's a very low chance that SSB will output enough damage to kill your team with Momo healing everyone, because Momo's has very low cooldowns. And of course, you should be bringing Aureus on Kluri and, all the good stuff. So once you take out SSB, that pretty much eliminates any win condition on the right. Unless, you have like a freaky Moonlight CC does insane damage or something. So what have you just done here? Basically, you would have beaten the team on the right if you built it properly and had decent gear. The team on the right being the meta, with essentially just a couple of 3 stars that you specialty change, sure, and Sid. That is very cool about this game. You're probably thinking, alright, Seven, you're on drugs, right? There's no way that this team on the left is going to beat the team on the right. Hear me out, my Nagas, okay? This can win. Just analyze the teams you fight. Seaside Bologna, for example. If you see Seaside Bologna on a team, you want to think very carefully about bringing AoE units to fight her, okay? That means don't bring Basar. I mean, if you have Basar. I know he's OP, but he feeds SSB's S2 like crazy, and so does Dizzy. Okay, so that's why people like SSB, because, you bring Dizzy to SSB's team, and she's just pooping out damage on everyone, and it's just, she's getting way too many S2 procs. Okay, so here's another comp you might run into, okay? Once again, Purgus is Charles. Now, the difference here is that they have a healer on the enemy team. Okay, now certain things change when you go completely defensive to like a defensive regenerative team like the one on the right. Because Momo's healing, it is imperative that you bring someone that can immediately one-shot someone. Let me tell you why. Because you don't want Charles and SSB, two win conditions, to survive for very long, because you will not survive versus those two units. So once again, building Clary right, you want to take out SSB or Charles. In my honest opinion, you always want to kill Charles first. You don't want to get the attack buff and defense buff going. Lorena can do it for sure. You can upgrade this unit with Stigma, so there's no reason why you shouldn't be using her if you don't have a good DPS at all, if you never got one from the gacha. She can definitely one-shot Charles with defense down, and as the battle goes on, she'll even get stronger with her S2. You don't need Angelica here. You could use Decina or like another healer. I mean, you could even do some like shenanigans with Rin if you want, but the main important thing here is that you kill one of their win conditions so that, you know, your support can keep this tanky unit, which doesn't take much damage from SSB, alive, and Lorena alive. I mean, Clary won't take damage from this team as long as you kill Charles, because SSB, like I said, disadvantaged element. Now, there is one more type of team that you probably find on defense sometimes. Okay, once again, hypotheticals here. This Basar is ML Basar. Yeah, I don't have very many Moonlight units. Vildred can be either Vildred or Angry Vildred. You would just need to have some kind of extinction or BBK on your team to deal with it. If you don't have that, don't even bother. You probably can't kill. I mean, there is a way to deal with it. I'll talk about Angry Vildred in a bit after this, but this is a speed composition on the right. If you see this on defense, then just recognize the fact that there's a CR booster there. We're gonna see a little instance of that in the next video about, you know, paying attention to which units CR boost. All right, I can guarantee you that. Anyway, with this particular team, there are two ways to beat a speed comp. Okay, one of them is to negate the cleave with tanky units and just survive. You could do that with like, I mean, units that are probably kind of hard to obtain, like C-Armin and a healer, like maybe Ruel in case someone dies, and a hybrid bruiser character like Euphony or even Lorena if you build her defensively. Because as soon as you get past their cleave, you're going to kill them. You're going to wear them down. Speed teams are not built defensively, or they don't have regenerative properties. Now, ML Basar is different. He can kind of heal, but it's not enough. The main point of ML Basar is that he CR pushes and gives everyone immunity, but immunity doesn't matter versus this type of cleave I have on the left. Ruzid, I believe, will outspeed ML Basar given equal gear. I believe he has higher base speed. I'm not too familiar with ML Basar yet, but I will research him more later. The point is, after your Ruzid goes first, this Shadow Rose doesn't even need to be built too speedy. I'd say like, I don't know, like 180 speed would get her the next turn if Ruzid uses S3 with agility up. And after that, she's going to push Mercedes again, who's in this case going to be built very kind of like 130-ish, kind of slow. She's going to be fat and all damage oriented. Okay? You get Mercedes from the story, so there's no reason why no one should have this unit. And her multipliers are actually pretty nice on AoEs. You give her a Portrait or Tonfa, you invest some Molas into her S3, and you give her something like, I don't know, like 240 to 250 crit damage with decent attack, and she'll kill everyone on this team, or at least the two units that you want to kill, which would be Vildred and BBK. They cannot survive the kind of multiplier that Mercedes has on S3 when she has attack up from Rose, and when it's upgraded, and when you do like 240% crit damage. There's just no way. So your priority for defeating speed comps like the one on the right is, like I said, you're going to outspeed them with something on the left, something similar on the left, or you're going to just tank them. Now, a lot of the higher level play battles will just tank cleaves because they have the gear, and you know, more dedicated players farm gear like crazy, and they have extremely like nicely rolled items that will just, like, even if you go first, you can't cleave the team, right? They'll bring stuff like Aureus, they'll bring their Proof of Valors because they adapt their teams and they'll just negate your speed comp completely. So I wouldn't recommend putting a speed comp on defense, because there are much more ways to counter it, and they are easy to deal with. They're more easy to deal with than the tanky meta teams, right? So let me talk a little bit about ML Vildred, okay? So he, on defense, is a very good unit for people that do not have a way to deal with him. Like, there's no way for people to beat him. If you don't have, Specimen says, a very well-built BBK with, of course, the proper support. You could use Lilibet, but I wouldn't recommend it, because Lilibet's kind of underperforming right now, even despite the buffs. You could do something with her, like you could put her on one of those defensive teams I talked about to counter the cleave, because she's pretty tanky. She's like a bruiser. So if you bring her with like a tanky Montmorency and like a tank that has Aureus, and you give her Proof of Valor, Lilibet will survive the cleave too, if you also build and get her defense up to something like 1.1k and a decent amount of HP. And eventually you will, like I said, wear that cleave down, because they don't have the regeneration you do or the defense. So in the long run you win. And as soon as you get Angry Vildred to, like, I don't know, like 70% HP, then I would trust the S3 to kill him. Like, without even attack up, and then essentially you would have won versus Angry Vildred using Lilibet. But Lilibet's a 5-star. These units on the left, they're much easier to get, but you wouldn't fight ML Vildred with this team on the left, because it's a single layered cleave, so you can't kill him on the follow-up, because there's no extinction, and this isn't a BBK cleave, so like this would be better for Vildred, Angry Vildred, because BBK takes a second turn versus Angry Vildred. If she kills him on the S3, which she should with Portrait and, you know, fully max S3, and you get your S1 up so that you make sure you kill him on his revive, because your turn happens before his. That's some specific stuff versus Angry Vildred. So let's take a look at this example team here. I've literally not thought about what I would use versus the team on the right, and I'm even gonna assume like Tywin is like a crawl, okay? Not that unusual of a team. You do see some Assassin Coley, you definitely see SSB everywhere, and you do see Kraw. So I have just seen this team on the right, and if I had to attack it, like let's say this is the tower before fortress, and they're like, hey Seven, go take these guys out. Okay, now what I would do first is I would recognize, like I said, how the AI would act in this situation. Now, Assassin Coley is a very, very fast unit. I wouldn't even bother try outspeeding her. I might be able to with Ruzid, but I'm not going to in this case. Instead, I'm going to implement what I talked about, which is a bait unit. Now, this could be like, let's see, it could be a Purgus. It could be a Fighter Maya. Just something. I mean, these units could even come in with an immunity buff to make sure that, you know, they don't get stunned. To make it even more like countery, to like make sure that, you know, you beat this team on the right. But I don't think it's necessary, because I mean these units, if you just put a little effect resistance on them, they don't need immunity sets. They're tanks. They're gonna survive. So, I mean, you don't even need these two really. A decently tanked, like any kind of light unit, Ricorous. I mean, yeah, why not, right? This is just going to be the bait unit here that I'm talking about. This is never like a team you want to use. Never use a single element team, like I said. Unless they're also using a single element team, like these were all darks, like that was Corvus or something, and you had like Zerato or whatever. But your choice of defensive bait unit is up to you. Use what you have if you have to use it. I mean, even Doris will take priority, because the AI will target the weaker element. Now, once you've chosen that unit, in this case, Ruzid is, I'm going to assume what I'm going to choose. This is what I would choose, actually. And my Ruzid is faster. I mean, he's not fat. He's not that fast. He's like 190 speed or something. So he's going to go before that SS speed, and that gives me access to attack up. Gives me access to potential stuns, but I'm going to assume that they built well, and they all have immunity. These two units have immunity. Which I don't really care about, because in this case, I just want the attack up, right? Now, I could just bring Euphony. Let's see, where is she? No, let's not bring Euphony. Let's do an easy unit to obtain Clary. we're gonna do the old S3, take her out with any kind of green unit that does good damage. Sid, I mean, maybe not Leo. Leo won't one-shot her, but you should have at least one good green DPS. If you don't, you can get access to Lorena or another light or dark unit that's DPS oriented, or even like a blue unit like a Luna, or you know, anything like that. To be frankly blunt with you, it really doesn't matter, because you could bring a Chloe here, and if you go Purgus and they're built incorrectly and they get a stun on SSB and Craw here, then you know, you've taken their win condition, because as long as Purgus is there, it doesn't matter if Chloe's stealth. I mean, you're gonna kill SSB with whatever DPS you please as soon as you can. The only real issue here is Craw's S3. It could kill Purgus. I've definitely seen some very tanky, like light units like a Maya. If you want to make sure that you survive that S3, you can bring Maya instead. She has much higher defense. But you can probably build Purgus with Proof of Valor, or, you know, Noble Oath, Arius. I mean, not Arius. You want Arius on Clary, but you want Arius on her anyway, so everyone's gonna take less damage on this team. But once he gets his S3 out of the way, I mean, he's not gonna kill your whole team, especially not Clary. Clary and Purgus are a tank. And I mean, Purgus is gonna be lower HP the whole time, because like I said, A. coli is gonna attack him. So he's gonna have low percent HP, and since there isn't a unit that he's advantaged against, he's gonna always attack Purgus basically. Unless somehow Clary gets lower than him, which it doesn't matter. And after, you know, you kill SSB, your chances of winning have just skyrocketed, because like I said, A. coli's only gonna attack Purgus. You're gonna wear down this Craw with whatever DPS you please. It can be anyone. It can be Chloe, it can be Euphony, I guess would be a better choice here, but you might not have Euphony. It could be a Sid. Yeah, Vildred, I mean, why not? You're gonna kill the SSB, like, first. This is all assuming that your unit, your DPS is properly built. Don't get me wrong, this unit still has to be built properly, because SSB is a naturally tanky unit. So this is just a team that I've come up with, like, on the fly, and there's a pretty good chance it would win. Because I'm thinking about, like, you know, the priority list of the AI. So I've just given you like a few like teams, like in concept, that you might see, and I've pretty much already put all the information I've wanted to in this video, so there's not really much to say, but I am going to try something. There's an experiment I want to do. I am recording right now, and I'm going to summon. I have a theory that people, like content creators, summon better units than everyone else, and I'm going to prove it right now by dropping a few bookmarks. You're probably wondering, like, you know, I clicked on this video thinking it was oh good, there's an imprint, thinking that, you know, this is going to be a summoning session. I didn't want to see any of this other, like, Guild Wars crash course crap. I don't care about that. Alright, well, here you go, guys. Wow, decent amount of wow, what's going on? Stuck on 4 stars. Okay, sure. Let's see. Alright, I think my luck is still bad. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, guys. If you have any questions about certain team compositions or units, don't be afraid to ask me in Discord. I'll give you my opinion. And I will see you there.